agreement. It's not like crazy that we could even ask for an El Salvadorian citizen who committed a crime here back. But when that crime is, illegal immigration and these things, and the end result is deporting him, I don't think it's the type of case that we need to extradite him back here. So I think the courts are overstepping. I think it's political, and I'll leave it there.
Fantastic. So we're 0 for 3 with the topic so far. Let's see if we get 0 for the fourth one here. Go ahead. Shenandoah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I don't really think it's justifiable to deport people to a foreign gulag without sufficient protections and due process. And I think it's abhorrent that we're possibly continuing to pay them to keep him in this foreign gulag if the senator, I forget his name, but he spoke to the vice president of El Salvador, has to say anything. I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's like 9-0 Supreme Court ruling is pretty simple. There was an administrative error, and we should be trying to do what we can to get him back. And at the very least, give him a trial.
All right, thank you so much. Sorry, Bill.
All right, so I don't know if anyone heard the moderator what the topic is, but it's about the hypocrisy of Cory Booker not going to Gaza to free one of the American citizens being held there. Now, as stupid as that is as a topic, sorry, Gibbs, that's a very dumb comparison to make. No, I don't think it's Hippocratic to not go to a war zone to retrieve a hostage held by a foreign adversary than to go to someone that we're negotiating with for holding prisoners that we've decided to place there in a way that I think is unlawful or not right. But yeah, based on what everyone else said, yeah, he was not afforded his due process. He was not. He was apparently administrative errored into this country, which is funny because he had this this withholding to be able to be deported to any other country. So rightfully so, Trump could immediately get him back and just throw him into Mexico or something, and I think that would probably be legal and fair. So what's interesting is that Pentuple, and I guess maybe other people might make this argument that there's due process because we have documents, and not the fact that there was a failure to file an injunction or an indictment or anything else like that. They just kind of threw him into a plane and shipped him off to another country. I think that is insane, and I don't think that's the same as holding a hostage in Gaza, though. It's much well, I don't know if I'd say worse, but completely disanalogous. So that's my opening.
I'm so glad one of the people here got the topic right. I'm glad. Thank you. We are 1, 4, 5. Looks like.
Just start off with responding to that. It was a withholding order. He was in. They had gone through the process. He was going to be deported, and they granted him a withholding order on the basis of fear of gang activity or whatever it was. So this idea that they didn't go through process because they ignored this withholding order.
Why?
Which, yeah, they're right. They shouldn't have ignored, but this doesn't mean he wasn't going to get deported anyway. They had a withholding order. This is important and relevant.
Right. So if I say I'm going to charge you, for stealing from a convenience store, and then I throw you in prison for 25 years for a murder. He was going to go to jail anyway, right? This is completely no. That's not the same thing. It's not the same thing when you have
because the withholding order could have been revoked, and he would have been already at the point where due process had been provided, and he was deported validly under due process. That's what you're saying. Due process would have uncovered that. Due process was going to be deported. They provided a withholding order to hold and stay that deportation. If that had been removed, he would have been gone through the process already.
But for the fact that there's nothing that says we cannot deport you to El Salvador, he would not have been deported to El Salvador. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, if he had been deported to some other country with any other sort of deportation method, that's very different from sending him to the one country he's legally not allowed to be sent to, and specifically to a torture prison.
According to the withholding order.
Yeah.
Yes, according to the law. Yes, that is what happened.
And according to the withholding order.
What?
They had to do was remove that. So the immigration
and they didn't. Okay, so anyway, this is
just skipped a step essentially. And they
so I don't even understand.
Right, but your argument is hyperbole that there was no due process. They didn't do anything. They established due process. They were going to deport him. A withholding order stay was put in place to stop that deportation, and the Trump team violated that and deported him anyway. That's what happened. This idea that, there's no due process. They're going to just deport people randomly. It's hyperbole. Everyone knows it. This is what you guys are known for at this point. It's just have fun. Do it. Go ahead.
Let's go to
what exactly was the deportation for? If he was going to be deported, what was it for? Because if I remember correctly, when he's here
legally. He's a member of MS-13.
he has legal residence.
When he was pulled over originally, all they said was that his immigration changed. They just said something had changed and that he had to call his wife there to be there within 10 minutes to get their kid, or because he was going to be arrested. When it comes to why they withheld him, it was largely because of his hat. Chicago Bulls hat. Pretty sure that's not enough for any of us.
Or that's why they thought he was a part of MS-13.
That's probably why
it was. Yes, that's why they thought he was a part of.
So far, that's the only evidence we have.
Right. That's the only evidence they've provided. That's the only evidence they've provided. And you're making this argument. Well, he was here illegally.
Little innocent baby beats his wife.
Let's
applied for asylum. He already applied for asylum years ago, and he was granted asylum. He was here.
Was he granted asylum?
Hold on.
No, he was not granted
asylum.
No, he was denied asylum because he had a 1 year past the application. He was granted withholding, which is a higher standard than an asylum.
Withholding from deportation. Yes, you're correct. He wasn't granted asylum. He was granted time to stay in America as long as he went through his immigration meetings, which he did regularly. He was consistent. He followed through with all of those meetings. He was caring for his wife and son, and then he got pulled over because
he was beating his wife.
Yeah, let's go to Tyler. Let's go to Tyler, and then we'll get Shindo here. Then we'll
every person who we
no, but you can't pull this like sympathetic, like think about his wife. His wife is trying to get restraining orders against him.
I'm just trying to point out that he was. He had a job. He was. I just want to finish.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to point out he had a job. He was offered. He was like supporting his family. I don't know anything about the relationship dynamics. I'm just saying he had a job, he was working, he was supporting his family with his income. That's what I mean when I say he's supporting his wife and child.
All right, Tyler, go ahead. Then we're going to Shindo, and
I don't know if anyone else is here has been to or is from like an inner city area, but lots of gangs wear lots of sports color gear that matches with their gang colors. I linked Buckaroo, the actual police report, where they're saying it's more than just his hat. It's the color of his hat, as well as the contents of his shirt, as well as the people that he was affiliating with. You have to be a higher up member or trusted deeply within MS-13 to be talking to other known higher up members. And then on top of that, there was a confidential source that also backed those claims as well. So there was a little bit more evidence for the police to say he was MS-13. The judges reviewed this evidence in 2019 and said that he was a risk. They ended up reversing that with time. But at first assessing this evidence, what they were presented, they said he is a clear and present danger. So this was all added together. So just saying it was a hat, it's a little bit empty onto what they're claiming the hat means.
No. I hear you. And like, I guess a part of my complaint is like him wearing these clothes and associated with them. That's not evidence enough to me, at least, that he's committing a crime. That's just evidence that he's possibly affiliated with people. But he was like being. I just don't see that as enough for.
I'll bite the bullet even harder. If he was both a gang member and he was beating his wife every day and kids, I still think what happened to him was not afforded due process. He needs to be charged with a crime before he's deported. And the withholding order did not say, and then we can just deport you whenever we want. There needs to be a court process, an official indictment, an official process, a very robust process that was not carried out. And if he deserves to be deported, first of all, he had legitimate reason to. The Trump admin had like multiple opportunities to ship him to another country, to appeal this withholding, or to just take it back to the immigration service. They could have done any of those three things, and I don't think many people would be complaining. And if they did, I wouldn't really be on their side. So all I'm saying is, if he gets a proper charge, that's fine. And Gibbs, I see you're frustrated. You probably want to talk about Cory Booker for some reason.
Oh no, I was gonna say, let's go. I'm gonna let Tyler say he looked like he wanted to about that. Then I want to go to Shindo. I know he's not feeling the optimum, so
yeah, I'm kind of like leaning back.
So I'm gonna let you get in after Tyler. Go ahead, Tyler. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I did want to point out that Hamas said, I think yesterday or today, they don't know where the last U.S. hostage is. So even if Cory Booker went there, he wasn't getting shit. So,
oh wow!
Why would he go there? You just become another hostage.
Hold on. The point is, this now my own side's turning on me. This is some bullshit.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Backstab.
Yeah,
look, fucking A2 Pentuple.
I thought he was the Republican.
I hate the idea. I'm just saying
he's supposed to be the most Republican representative here, like on the squad. But no,
dude, Hamas could have my fucking mom, and I'd be like, fucking. I don't know if I should go there.
My back, bro. Like this guy. Anyway, yeah.
Bro, don't tell your mom that. Oh my god.
Go ahead.
just saying, it's
we're
like,
gonna go rescue
what
that
am I
guy.
going to accomplish by going to the people that are like I'm not. That's what I'm saying is no matter how badly I want, it could be myself if that was physically possible. The point I'm just saying is like no matter how badly I want it back, I don't know that I'm going to.
All I know,
I don't know, man.
Get
I know.
involved there.
My mom, I'm getting out my handy dandy cookbook.
Send the Green Berets or whatever.
Hold on,
President, please send
hold
like
on.
those big strong guys that we don't know
I had
about.
a second, real quick.
Those big strong guys. We don't know.
Yeah, you know all the like 6'9",
crypto
like
games.
you know, genetically engineered specimens that I know they have somewhere.
You cannot legally deport to somebody to a country that they are not a citizen of without authority of the country you're deporting them to. That was the entire point behind Trump's 2018 tariffs against Mexico, was to get them to agree to the migrant protection protocols in that executive order. They would have had to say, yes, we'll take your asylees, even if they're not from Mexico, in order for that to work. So a country would have to agree to take an El Salvadorian citizen in order for us to deport them there. And I don't think we have that set up with anybody else besides El Salvador right now.
Shut it up.
Okay, sure. If that was not an option to him, at the very least, he could have reopened the proceedings or, you know, appealed the withholding. So
let's go to shut it down here. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, I do think it's kind of sad that the Trump administration and the general state of our government has gotten so bad that the topic of this debate is comparing the actions of how we've deported people to like a fucking prison camp and how that's like analogous to Hamas. Like, we fucking have a hostage basically in like a foreign dictatorship, which we've set without due process. And I'm like, that fucking makes me lament for the state of the republic, brothers and sisters. Like, I'm fucking sad. Like, I'm fucking sad. I am.
Yeah. When it comes to like this, bro, lately, don't even get started on the sadness thing. I'm actually very sad with the state of the nation right now, and all just like the blatant ignorance, like blatantly ignoring you know, the legal avenues just so you can fucking you know, speed run deportation. Like, no.
I was
actually have a question for you, Pentapple.
We were actually deporting people without due process.
Why is it? Whoa, Pentapple, I have a question, because when we were talking about due process, a part of your argument was actually, you know, there were 20 million people who illegally crossed during Biden's reign. So, like, due process, are we really worried about that? Like, it seems like you're using this influx of undocumented immigrants as support for, you know, revoking the rights of other citizens who were not, or other people who were not a part of that, or may not have been a part of that.
Saying that hyperbole of like, oh my god, we're not following the law. Oh god, it's like you guys just went through like sanctuary cities for 4 years. Like, you guys remember those?
Do you think
like that? Like, you guys didn't want to enforce any immigration law at all, and we missed one.
Immigrate. So I hear what you're saying, but say it to someone else, because I don't think anybody in here said that we like illegal immigration, that we illegally immigrated, that our best illegally immigrated.
When I deport you,
like, they're much more tangible than your guys' opinions. This is true.
What's the reason in bringing in 20 million people immigrating undocumented, other than to justify the revocation of rights
I forgot.
from people who are already afforded these rights?
He did it.
What is that?
That's him.
Well, Shenandoah brings up something.
I'll defer to Shenandoah because he's the one who did it.
No, but he brought up something though. He said, "Okay, I'm going to deport you to America, to El Salvadorian prison, right?" To Pentuple. Well, here's the thing, Pentuple. I'm assuming. I don't know for sure. I can't prove this, but I'm assuming he's a full-blown American citizen. And
who is?
You are, right?
Oh yeah.
So
you're damn right. Yeah.
And Tyler here brought up the point. Oh, we're not negotiating with this government, this El Salvadorian dictator, but we are negotiating with Hamas.
We literally had him in the Oval Office.
Yeah, right.
Like, how long ago?
No, I'm sorry. Let me
hold
on.
He didn't want to break American law.
So, like,
Trump would be like, my
God
homie.
damn it, we got one person.
We all know what's up. Like, I think Soy was saying.
So Tyler brought up that we are negotiating with this El Salvador. I misspoke, but we're not be able to negotiate with Hamas. Yet we're somehow like talking through peace deal talks with them. I think that they are actually equivalent. Why this guy? One of them is of the two people. One of them is an American citizen. Why couldn't Cory Booker go to whatever representative Hamas is talking in these negotiations and go over there and go speak with him in Palestine or Israel or Qatar and be like, give us our guy back now?
I have an answer for it. Doesn't this get
But they're not doing that. He's not doing it. I don't see him so crying about this American citizen.
Why would Cory Booker going and doing the will of the, what the president and the entire administration has been trying for 2 years with varying degrees of success be and all analogous to Cory Booker going completely against what the current president is doing to El Salvador? Obviously, these two things are out of alignment.
Well, hold on. Since Pituple stabbed me in the back as the Republican.
No, I was about to support you. I'm about to support you.
Let's see it.
So what you're talking about with why doesn't Booker go there? It would probably be a violation of the Logan Act for him to try to interfere in foreign affairs, especially with a
Logan Act.
Trump
He's making
president.
things up now.
And then this is what people are accusing Van Hollen of trying to do by going down to El Salvador to negotiate with Bukele. I mean, this is what people were talking about. I'm not super familiar with the Logan Act violation, but it generally has to do with interfering with the foreign policy of the government, right? I don't think that you can necessarily, although if it's in support of the policy, I don't know if that would violate the Logan Act, but I don't know if have congressmen been, although I guess they do that, right? Don't we have pictures of John McCain going overseas when he was a senator?
Wait, maybe you should give it back to Gibbs instead of figuring out your opinion in real time.
Yeah, I don't.
It's an interesting hypothetical. Do you have an opinion on it?
So hold on. This is the point that I was making.
You have conclusions because you just do whatever you're told.
This is maybe more the line of thought that I wanted to go down. Right? So a lot of people are going, hey, the Dems seem to be way more concerned about this guy who has what looks like fairly clear ties to MS-13 to most people. I think if you look at it more, fairly clear.
I mean, from how many years ago?
Well, his outfit, the fact that he was arrested with a bunch of money, the fact that his wife has a restraining order on him. Because he's so supportive that she's got a restraining order.
Post hoc rationalizing all of this.
No, hold on.
First of all, it doesn't matter.
Hold on. And listen, here's the bigger point. This is not even rationalizing because he's still not a citizen. Right, and we have an American citizen somewhere else.
He's still afforded certain rights, even if you're not a citizen.
Okay, listen, let me finish. This is the point, though. I'm saying is that we got an American citizen in another country held by a terror group, and the Dems supposed to be these people that care and have empathy for everybody, and yet they're making a massive boo-ha-ha over, this poor MS-13 gangster, and they don't give two fucks about this guy being held over in
They haven't
Palestine.
Shut up about the Israel conflict for 2 years, Gibbs.
Well, exactly.
I don't think your average Democrat
y'all keep saying from the river to the sea, y'all are supporting the other terrorist guy that got deported.
You talking about Cory Booker? Or are you talking about leftists at Columbia? These are very different.
Yeah, these
are both what? Because you're talking about Cory Booker. What do you want Cory Booker?
These are people who don't.
I want him to go to Dubai or wherever they're having the negotiations and have a conversation with the boss.
And be like, hey, could you, Mr. Trump, can you try please extra hard? Because I also want the hostages released.
But hold on. Members of our government go to other countries all the time without just the president's express permission to work.
I'm saying, what do you want him to add to the conversation in this hostage negotiation? What the fuck do you think he's going to say that's different from him specifically going against what the current admin is doing? If anything, he would be completely in line with the admin. The admin wants the hostages released. There's not going to do anything. It's like, hey, can you get your son to go to work with you and also file papers for you? It's like, what the fuck is he going to do? I know how to file them. I don't need him here.
He might just get killed if he fucking goes to Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. El Salvador is at least a legitimate government. That's a whole different level of thing. It's like, you want to walk into ISIS and be like, I have an idea.
Wait, so you agree Hamas is just a terrorist group then?
I think Hamas is terrible. I think they should be all.
That's a bold statement on Twitch nowadays. It's a bold statement.
No, I can't finish that. I was about to break TOS. Sorry.
No, yeah.
It's a bold statement to say Hamas is a terror organization.
Yeah, I see people saying that they're the rightful rulers.
I love Jewish people, and I think Hamas is bad. So there you go.
Oh, that's true. Considering the number one Twitch streamer, but
yeah, I kind of go there. All right, go ahead, fight amongst yourselves. You were going.
I got a couple of things. So, one, Gibbs, we don't negotiate with terrorist groups. Adam Bowler going overseas and talking directly to Hamas and having tea and crumpets with them is pretty generally frowned upon by most people in the United States and the foreign policy of most of the West. Even though I don't think you care about what these people think, it just doesn't look good. And he did help maybe facilitate getting a second last U.S. Terrorist out of there. We don't know the full impact, but You're asking this would be like asking Cory Booker to go and negotiate with MS-13, not to go and negotiate with a foreign government's sanctioned leader. Like the comparison is off. Yeah, because we have foreign dignitaries go and talk to people all the time, and they can have antithetical views to the administration. The Logan Act requires some sort of quid pro quo. Like when Tulsi went to Syria to talk to Bashar al-Assad, she was in a way disagreeing with the administration's policies on Bashar at the time. Especially, I think that was right after the strike on Syria. Something happened with Syria in the U.S., and it was right after she was basically kind of saying like she didn't agree with it. So I just don't think that really lines up. And I really think Cory Booker is really doing what should be done here. Trump cannot effectuate the release. They're being told he doesn't have to effectuate the release. So Cory Booker can go as a U.S. diplomat and effectuate that release, even if you agree with Pam Bondi's definition that facilitate just means a flight. It doesn't matter who effectuates the release. Then Cory Booker's doing it on his own will. That's perfectly fine. He's bailing him out of jail. That's it. No,
I'm in.
Bailing him out of jail.
He's bailing him out.
I mean,
Let him free.
Let's all team up and let's go to the El Salvadorian prison together and get this guy out. Come on, you, me, Soy. Yeah, fuck it. It'll be like a weekend at Bernie's kind of thing.
I unironically think we have a better chance of like us five and maybe some of my redneck boys, and we go down to like Palestine of getting the guy back from them than we do getting him.
Let's do it, Gibbs. You and me,
the dictator.
We'll be the anti-Hamas team.
I'm just saying. I think our odds are better because we probably equal them in about the same amount of guns comparatively. Compared to, I think the El Salvadorians are a little more organized. You know, just saying. You know,
Gibbs, you just gave me a new way to get around TOS for telling someone to, end themselves, and which is, I believe that you should enact your hubris.
Go on a crusade, yeah.
Go on a crusade,
yeah. It's we get what, little Deuce Volt or whatever. What is that? What do you have tattooed on him, Hexcath? Anyway, I digress. Temple, you have anything to say for yourself after being a terrible Republican today? So far,
no. But I have a question for the panel. I'm curious about.
Sure, go ahead.
So, like, it's kind of a derail a little bit.
In front of everyone?
Not a huge derail. No, that was the Logan Act because I actually was like, I wonder what that, like, why that's like always accused and never charged. But it just says without having authority from the government to go negotiate. I don't know who would give that, but it's probably someone in the administration. So it probably wouldn't like give Cory Booker the right to. He probably would have been able to under Biden, I guess. I don't know how it works, but when Trump's talking about like, oh yeah, we could send some people who are citizens to these places. When we're getting rid of the death penalty, would you guys like be always forever opposed to sending like a school shooter to this kind of place? Being like, yeah, we'll send them to like a supermax overseas. Like it'd be a good deterrent.
Let's just change it. Why don't we just sell them into slavery? If you're on death row, we can sell them into slavery. Is that what we're doing?
I'm pro death penalty, but I'm wondering if we get rid of the death penalty, like, is this like this isn't worse than the death penalty.
I mean, this is absolutely worse than the death. They're sending them to a torture prison where they beat and strangle and kill people there. They're in like overcrowded, no air conditioning, no windows.
Here's a button. Would you press it? Send the school shooter.
Would I send a school shooter here?
Would you do it?
Obviously, hold on. Let me explain the hypothetical.
I'm pressing that button.
Okay, well, go ahead and press the button. I'm waiting.
You should too.
You haven't pressed it yet. All right. So when you catch someone red-handed doing a crime, and it's like very obvious, and you still have to go through the due process. So you catch someone in the middle of stabbing their wife. Right? It's like, okay, the cop arrested them. I saw them stab their wife. We have it on camera. And nevertheless, you have to go through the court system. That's part of our laws. Right. You have to go. It's like a violation of the Fifth Amendment to not do this, right? So once that's happened, let's say that we're saying, okay, we're throwing these people into some sort of jail. I don't think that we should now throw them into El Salvador and then claim that we have no ability to get them back, because if you get that wrong just one time, if you make this the operational policy of, hey, we send the worst people here, and now we're sending potentially innocent people to a torture prison. One, I don't think we should just torture people as part of our punishment for crimes. But two, if we ever get it wrong, now we are torturing innocent people and we can't bring them back because it's not our jurisdiction. I think the greater point here, though, however, and you can address both of these separately, is that Trump isn't doing this to say, I'm so weak, I don't know how to make deals anymore. I don't know how to pressure El Salvador. He's doing this as a test to see how much he can get away with, because if he can get away with this without sending people away without their due process, and then he starts doing it with U.S. citizens, then who knows who else he's going to do it her. He's hey, I don't need to prove that you did a crime. My cops, my ICE, whatever, they said you did a crime, and we don't need to actually have any sort of court proof. And now go fuck off to this place, and now oops, whoopsie doopsie, if we made a mistake, we can't get you back. So that's actually what's the problem here. It's not just that he's being sent to prison. It's just that he's being punished. He doesn't deserve to be deported. It's all of these things at once.
Yeah, the jurisdiction thing is honestly the biggest red flag to me. It's like, yeah, even if like say that, oh my god, fuck, we accidentally got like this school shooter guy, and it turns out, oh my god, he's the wrong guy. Now you're absolutely fucked. You can't resolve that problem at all. Like, and you can't like oversee them and like give them their fucking like legal rights as Americans. Like that's or just as people.
That's one of the things. Like if
I got something for you too.
I was going to respond to that. So Trump definitely dapped his boy up Bukele, knowing that if Bukele postured as I'm not giving him back, that it would absolve him of what the Supreme Court ordered him to do with facilitating this. I definitely get that. Like, there's no doubt if Trump wanted this guy out. I mean, Trump's got people out that definitely don't want to, give people back. So this is definitely a case where we have a relationship. The idea that Trump couldn't get him back if he really wanted to is fair, but it's also fair to say, look, we're going to defer to him, and it is what it is. These are the people in power. But your argument about this, we might accidentally deport innocent people there to the prison. So this kind of mirrors the anti-death penalty claim, where it's like,
yeah, exactly.
We don't want to have people who get the death penalty that are innocent. But I do think, and you pointed this out, the distinction between cases where we have, a preponderance of the evidence, no confession, no video. But in those cases, like you said, where we have caught him in the act, it's on body cam. We have confessions, they're admitting to it. They're like all of those cases. In those cases, right? There isn't necessarily a risk of
I don't even disagree
accidentally putting someone innocent. So, okay.
Right. So, let me say, I think, and I appreciate the concession on the Trump thing, although I don't just defer to Trump for everything, and I hope that you should question him when he does terrible, awful things, but I appreciate the concession. And I agree with you 100%. Okay. There are cases where it's there's obviously this man is irredeemable. He stabbed someone to death. He says, I will do it again. The instant I have my hands on another human being, I'll strangle the life out of them. And there's probably in these hypothetical scenarios, and this does happen, so it's not always hypothetical, there's probably maybe we should just get rid of this person. The problem is when you have a blanket law that applies to the entire population, it cannot be applied the way that we ideally would want it to. So even though there are probably people that you and I would agree, yeah, we should probably just get rid of these guys, it's just not how it works in the legal system. And that's why we have due process. That's why we have the presumption of innocence, because no matter how good it would be to have this kind of vindictive justice system, if we get it wrong just once, that's not worth the 100 people we got it right for, because we just killed an innocent person. That's why I'm against it.
Temple, aren't you cheering on the tariffs and the trade war?
Yeah, what about them?
So why the fuck are you going to sit here and advocate for offshoring our good-paying union prison jobs to some shithole country so we can save a little bit of goddamn tax money?
They're stealing our slave labor.
Retribution against these bad people.
Holy shit.
We'll get the pot dealers.
It's an interesting argument, actually. I feel like that might be
an interesting argument.
That might be worth examining a little bit.
That made me giggle like the schoolgirl.
What the fuck? Are you serious? No.
Yeah, because now that he says that, I like prison industrial complex stocks are publicly traded. This is hurting Americans.
Yeah, and license plates, they're going to be more expensive. School desks, all the things we make with our slave labor. That is now being outsourced to El Salvador so they can build whatever bullshit. That should be our slave labor, okay? I'm not giving away our slaves. America is not a country of handouts.
Do you hate the American economy and all of the American people and all the students of America in the future?
Who builds our weapons?
Because it sounds like you do.
What is happening?
You turned into a leftist tonight. First you stabbed me in the back, and now you're trying to move American jobs out of the country, bro.
No,
and Temple woke arc. Holy shit.
To follow up on my second point here.
Soy cuck
won't be gaslit.
Give away our
work. Fucking dye his hair blue. Become a homosexual.
Oh, I can't wait.
So this is if Cory Booker goes there and negotiates, maybe that's a violation of the Logan Act. But if he goes there and threatens and says we will pass a veto-proof majority sanction against your country to completely stop trade with you 100%, and there's not shit Trump can do about it. We already did it to Russia under his first term. You won't be able to stop us unless you send this guy back. he can get that guy fucking released. I guarantee it. They have the power to overrule Trump on sanctions, and they will do it. I guarantee it. That's what he's going to go threaten. So,
wait, you're saying
Hell yeah.
that's what would happen if Cory Booker was able to get it back?
That's what I think Cory Booker's going down there to do, is threaten to overrule Trump and use Congress to punish El Salvador.
And if I was Rosario Dawson, I would ride him all night for doing it.
Do y'all also agree with this assessment? Chanel, you look like you're making a face.
I don't know. I just don't think that the Republicans have the guts in Congress to fucking play that game.
They don't. Republicans have never had balls. They won't start now.
I don't think they'd be able to do it.
Last week, the Senate had 4 Republicans flip and say that there's no emergency on the border.
Yeah, finally. Jesus fucking
You love this shit, Tyler. Oh my god, it's like the 4th week in a row you've told me about this stupid fucking end of the fentanyl thing and the tariff and the thing. We're still annexing Canada, Tyler. We will have Canada. Canada will be our 51st state, okay? No matter what you say about this stupid fentanyl crisis on the border and the tariffs, we will have them.
Okay, Mitch will rise again.
Yeah. How did we get here? I don't understand how we got to Canada. Yeah, I got.
We need Canada.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that the Senate rose up against Trump a few weeks ago, and so I can see him doing it again.
Especially like Thomas Massey.
I mean, it's not impossible. I don't want to say like it's impossible, but it's like my bookie odds as a guy from Vegas. I'm gonna say like fucking 2%. Like,
yeah.
Well, the appeals court, at the very least, the 4th Circuit Appeals Court has said, hey, a facilitate does not mean you can just like Supreme Court does not say that you just can't do anything, and facilitate only means, well, if somehow he were to make it to the border, then we have to let him in. Like they said, no, facilitate means doing something, or like at least your best efforts, as what's her name? Not Axis, Annan. What is her name? Zanin? Zenas had prescribed that, like, hey, you have to do updates on what steps Zenas, whatever. What steps you're trying to take, and actually like, report on the status of this person. Which, by the way, he might just be dead in this prison, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, we don't know. You know what, Mr. Pill? You know what freaks me the fuck out is like, like we could have taken like the coward's way out. And Trump could have just like pretended to do his due diligence in bringing this guy back home and just been like, whoops, sorry, and just like had a private conversation with Bukele and just said like, yeah, he's fucking there forever. But we don't even have that much. Like, we're like the conversation he had with Bukele, he very clearly doesn't fucking give a shit and doesn't even want him back home.
Right, which is what I was saying. It's an indication that he wants to do this more. He's seeing how much he can get away with right now. Yeah, exactly. Apparently, people are going to run defense for him if he does it, so...
Yeah, and we could, like, again, he could have at least, like, fucking pretended, and I would feel a little bit more at ease if he just, like, gave it a fucking fake shot.
Well, so...
it would be a loss and a waste of time.
Let's look at this another thing.
Yeah, because I feel like, well...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like when it comes to ignoring what, like, even just having an argument over whether or not his rights were ignored, I think it really comes down to, like, at what point do citizens feel like their sense of safety is being undercut by the actions of the state against people who seemingly were legally here. I understand there may be complaints about Garcia as an individual. I'm sorry, I'm jumping back to Garcia, but there may be complaints about him as an individual. There may be, thoughts that he has like ties to a gang. Even if I agreed with all of those assumptions about him, I would still take issue with the idea of, just ignoring certain rights or not appreciating them with not respecting them at the level that they should be respected, because, what does that mean for citizens? At what point should we start worrying that our state isn't there to support us either, if they're so willing to kick out all of these people that for years they said were legal, like Garcia?
Well, actually, I agree. That's interesting. I want to examine that a little bit further. So, okay, we've kind of talked about, it seems like we might actually be of two minds on this. Should this guy even be here? Because it seems like there's been some questions about whether or not he should be here in the first place, or like because, of his ties to the gangs, what he's done. And it looked like he was picked up for something and then let go under Biden. I don't know. Let's examine this. Like, do we all think this guy is someone we want in America in general? Since he's not a citizen. Thoughts? Go ahead, Soy. You're laughing.
Well, I think your statement is going to do a lot of bearing the lead there. Yeah, the heavy lifting is like, do I want him to be there? It's like if I knew a guy and you told me, hey, this guy beats his wife, do you want him in the country? I'd be like, I guess not. I probably wouldn't want him, right? But the idea that like this is somehow justification for whether or not he should be here is kind of a different thing, right? So this man fled from El Salvador because of gang violence, right? But for the technicality that he had over a year after he was supposed to file this asylum claim, he would have been granted asylum and then been a permanent, asylee who gets a bunch of, paths to citizenship, work permits, this sorts of stuff. So he would have otherwise, been granted that. And now, because of that gang violence, he was granted this withholding from removal, which is, again, a higher standard. You have to prove, and the judge saying, hey, this person is giving, good evidence and good testimony that all of this stuff is true, that he would be, killed or threatened by something due to his race, religion, nationality. So for now, we will not be deporting him to El Salvador. So given all of that, I would say it seems like he should be here based on the way that we conduct these things. Now, if you want to argue that like anyone who applies for asylum, anyone who comes over the border illegally should just get the fuck out, that's a whole other thing.
So let me ask you a question. Hold on, Buckaroo. Hold on. Well, let me ask you a question. So I've seen a lot of this. It says gang violence, and I've advocated previously on panels that I didn't like the idea of gang violence being something people could seek asylum for, because it seems like a lot of times it's one gang loses an area or is losing territory, and then they decide we're going to either be informants or whatever, and they work with the government, and then they're like, oh, we need to claim asylum because this new gang is going to take us out, or our rival gang is going to take us out. So we just bring in a gangbanger.
This is an interesting hypothetical.
But I mean, is it not
what actually happened was he had his pupuseria, which, by the way, try pupusas. They're delicious. Been more Salvadorians in. All right. They were, holding his family essentially hostage, saying, hey, we're going to rape your family, kill your family if you don't give us this bribe money. They tried to move away from this in the country 3 times, so it wasn't like they're just like, oh cool, let's just use this as a jumping off point to get to America. They tried to get away from this, and they even went to the police, and the police was infiltrated by this Barrio 18 gang. So after that, it's like, okay, well, let's try to claim asylum. And maybe, I mean, if you're contemplating this hypothetical scenario where there's some other gang member who's like, well, this other gang's gonna kill me, and so therefore I have to go claim asylum, yeah, and we should probably vet them and especially check if they've got some criminal history in that country and then do something about that. But that's just not the case here. So maybe in that situation there could be some other sort of process where we vet them before they come in, but that's clearly not what's happened.
I will note, at least from my understanding, they actually attempted asylum after he was in America. From my understanding, he was they had all these issues. Then his mother sent him to live with his cousin in America. He was working with his cousin in America as a day laborer, and then he was picked up for the clothes that he was wearing, and then he applied for. He was like, I blah blah blah, or fucking remove the clothing part. He was picked up. I can't remember why he was picked up. The second time he was picked up for clothing. The first time he was picked up, he applied for asylum. They were like, yo, you're late. You can't do that. But we'll, keep you here for your safety. And I personally, I guess, to me, this seems at best like somebody who was trying to escape violence and came to America and maybe didn't know the asylum process. If I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, which I think he deserves, because I have no proof that he's guilty of anything except wearing suspicious clothing. So yeah, I think I just think it's kind of ridiculous that we're even talking about whether or not he should be here when he was given the ability to stay here by a judge, by somebody with the legal authority. They said, we will keep you here for your safety. And then abruptly one day they were like, JK, we don't feel that way anymore. Sorry.
Well, a withholding order and a stay on deportation does, in theory, isn't permanent. I mean, I don't think this one had an expiration date or anything. But the idea that he was supposed to think he was off the totally, basically granted total freedom. They had a withholding order of a valid deportation that would have been valid without that order.
I understand and I respect that, but at that point, what do you expect him to do as an individual if suddenly the regime changes and he's just kicked out? I feel like he's done his hard work. He's put his work in the American economy. He's he has a wife from America. He's benefiting America in all of these different ways. I know you're laughing, but he's benefiting America when he's working here, when he's making money here, and if he's spending here. Well, no. No. I'm saying he's working here. He's spending here. I'm not even trying to talk about the sympathetic. I'm not even trying to talk about him as like an emotional individual. I'm talking about what he is as a part of our culture, like separate.
But
from
I didn't
want
to deport him because I didn't think he was paying enough in taxes.
That I don't like.
That's not
that
why
I
we
like
deported
to stay
him.
in the same country with, and yet they still stay here because they're citizens. I don't think beating your wife is enough of justification to ignore like what I think was the appropriately afforded due process.
Good enough to ignore that he's here illegally.
Hell yeah! Don't deport anybody, even if they beat their wife.
Oh,
that's not what I said. What I said is like there are tons of people who beat their wives that I would love to be deported.
I'm just saying because guys obviously like.
I just don't think that's reason enough to deport somebody. I think even people who are beating their wives deserve due process because that's the fucking nature of due process. That's the nature of rights that are afforded to you by the American Constitution. Is that they're offered to everybody unless you've done something to deserve
the order hadn't been put in place, he would have been validly deported.
Why do you keep making up this scenario where this thing didn't exist?
That's the point. My point is that he wasn't deported at that point. Like again,
no, I know, but you're saying, oh, there was no due process.
Yeah, and if my mom had wheels, she'd be a bike, but she fucking doesn't.
No,
so why the fuck are you making this argument?
I keep using this hyperbolic language that no due process had taken place. And I'm telling you, hey, the due process had taken place. They violated a withholding order. Like this is
violating the withholding order is a violation of his Fifth Amendment. Literally, no
due process.
This is the point of due process.
That's what deporting someone without due process is.
Now semantics. You know that's semantics.
It's not semantics.
Yes,
let me get some order.
Yes, it is. You guys are acting like there's people without doing any sort of anything, which is just wrong.
All right,
let's go. We were talking about all of these here. It's a withholding order.
Wait. All right, Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut off Miss Repeal the 19th over here, but it is still
Gibbs adjacent streamer Tyler, who once argued.
Oh, here we go.
It is still due process, even though it is semantically due process. Even though he's going to end up in the same place as Stephen Miller said in that meeting, it is still a process, a part of the process that was skipped. Pam Bondi admitted she skipped it. She's saying it's a waste of time to bring him back. It's a waste of time, money, and effort.
It's also not
and the whole point of due process. The whole point of due process is to have a system where you go through and you check all of these things. You check every box. You make sure you're doing it all correctly because at the end of the day, somebody can argue that they were
Let me try to build a bridge with you here, though. Like, this is what
Admiral, can I say one thing, Admiral?
Sure,
go ahead. There's a whole reason. Just say there's a fucking reason for due process.
Yeah, what Papa's saying is true. This is kind of like a binary thing. Like, yeah, oh, well, there's some things that they did and some things that they didn't. Okay, so if you arrest someone, you don't read them their Miranda rights. It doesn't matter if you caught them dead to rights. That is, in certain cases, justification for releasing them because you didn't fucking follow the process. Well, and the reason that process is there is so that you don't do something that gets someone who doesn't deserve to be fucking arrested or deported. So if it's like, hey, I saw him wear the Chicago Bulls hat, so it's okay. He was a gang member. We can deport him. That's not due process. You have to show up. You have to go through the injunction and the criminal court, and you have to show, hey, this is the proof, and then the judge or the jury has to agree on that. So if you skip part of that process, it's not, oh, well, we did most of the due process. No, his Fifth Amendment rights were violated. The Supreme Court has said as much. That's why it fucking matters.
Well, yeah, so that was
actually we're getting all of this information from about the outfits and stuff from the very process you just described.
No, that is not even part of why he was deported. They didn't even know this when they sent him off.
They just checked his hat and sent him away, and it's like, how do we even know all this? It's from the case
someone
where they
just said it.
All of what you just said.
Oh my god! No, this was not. You're talking about the 2019 case.
Let me just try to frame this because this is what I think it seems to be coming down to right here. So, like, I'm hearing both of y'all, right? So, what it seems to be like Pintuple's saying. All right, and maybe he could correct. I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong afterwards. But what it seems to be is like they have done steps X, Y, Z, or A, B, C through Q, and then they did whatever afterwards, right? It seems like y'all are saying, well, it's kind of like the Miranda rights. They don't read the one thing. It doesn't matter if they do A through Z correct if they skipped, like, I don't know, R or whatever, right? Like, if they skip one step, then you didn't get due process. That seems to be the general summary here for both of y'all. what are y'all's objections? Because I hear y'all both just screaming at you. Let's go to
that. Ahead. But specifically in this case, he's not been charged with any crime, and he has zero criminal record. It is the illusion that they think that he might be part of this thing, based on these documents that say, "Hey, someone claimed that this is gang affiliated, but we can't prove it, and we absolutely have not ruled that he is part of this gang, and therefore, that is the justification of deporting him." When it's like you can't just lump all this together and say, "Well, that's due process because we have some documents from some cases of where he might have been." It is not we know nothing and we just picked up a random guy who looked Mexican and sent him off. That's also a violation of due process. It's just much worse. This is just something where he has not been charged.
Let me just throw one other thing out here real quick.
Part of why I brought up.
Well, let me throw one more thing out there. So there's also this aspect, and I mean, maybe the righties can, or my token righties here can, enlighten people here in a second to why this argument. But it seems like there's an argument coming from many people on the right that this guy should have already been kicked out under Biden, and this is all agenda-based enforcement. And so they're like saying basically rectifying a wrong that should have been done previously. Now I know y'all are going to object to that, but go ahead, Buckaroo, and then we'll let some other people go. Here, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, this is a part of why I brought it back to, the average citizen and whether they would be worried. Like, when we see due process that's being ignored for immigrants that are undocumented, whatever was going on before that, when we feel like due process, and I think it is being ignored, it's just unsettling, because this is one of the pillars, I think, of the American justice system specifically. And I think, it's kind of a slippery slope argument, but I think it's justifiable when it feels like it's only being supported because he's an immigrant and we have some stick up our ass about all of the immigrants right now. That's really all it seems like. So it just
first they came for the wife-beating gang members, and Tuple said nothing because he didn't like wife-beating gang members.
No, and I cheered, and I cheered and said, "Yeah, get him."
To trust a state that's willing
I'm
to
agreeing
ignore.
With you, Papa, but I'm saying we should defend the wife-beating gang members, if that is what he is. Before where he says, "Oh, this guy criticized Israel. Get him the fuck out of here,"
Well, exactly. If we're looking at America, if we look at America and we look at the laws and the system in America, if we truly believe in any of the system and laws in America, wouldn't we think that it'd be appropriate to apply these to the people in America, whether or not other countries are affording them, like freedom of speech, like freedom to bear arms? People come here because they don't like the fact that they can't own a gun in another country. Is that not the nature of America, that we respect our rights, that we afford our people first? So when it comes to somebody coming to America, I get it. You guys think he was here illegally. You don't like that he's doing X, Y, and Z. I'm not even justifying what he is or isn't doing. I'm just saying, this is the nature of having a constitution, of having rights that we've decided are afforded to citizens, and rights that are afforded to everybody by our country, because we believe our rights are better. So if you think the Constitution is fucked up, then argue against it, I guess.
Yeah, argue against the Tuple.
Argue against me, I guess. If you really hate
hyperbole. It's hyperbole. I mean, you could come up with much better examples of threats against due process where people were probably held without getting their speedy and just trial.
And I would disagree with all of those.
I know, but what I'm saying is we have a person who was basically about to be deported. They had gone through the due process to be deported.
Well, no,
they had
you don't. Okay, Pentuple, I don't think you're lying. I think you genuinely just don't understand that he has to be seen by a judge. That's part of the proceeding. There has to be notice here, and there has to be something filed. There is a process that was not. The withholding order is just not say, "Hey, you can stay here. We can't deport you to El Salvador, and just at any moment we're just going to decide to throw you out without."
The withholding order isn't that what said he couldn't be deported to El Salvador?
No, I'm saying it doesn't say that. Oh, hey, by the way, we're at any time in the future without any notice, we're just going to pick you up and throw you into a random country. That's not what the withholding order says.
No, but it doesn't say it's permanently in permanent effect.
It doesn't.
Either.
But you know what happens? What do you think happens when they want to get rid of that withholding order or do something against it or deport someone? What do you think happens?
It should have been revoked, and then the process could have continued. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Some sort of due process. You're saying
that's literally the point.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it wasn't a mistake.
Okay, so he
did the process. We violate the withholding order, and you guys are going, "Oh, there's no due process. They're just randomly deporting people." It's obvious hyperbole. And it's nobody's falling for it. It's current saying it'll be gone in 2 months.
We're violated.
It is a violation.
So you agree with us?
Yes.
And so wait, hold on, Patuple, tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm misunderstanding you. Your argument is not, and again, I think we kind of covered this, but I'm just going to try to restate it and tell me if I'm misquoting you. What you're saying is, well, he's gone through a lot of processes up until this point. And this last violation is a technicality. He would have otherwise been deported, and therefore it's not a big deal, right?
Sure.
Okay, so the reason why we think it's a big deal is, yeah, sure, again, maybe if someone was going to go to jail anyway, it still matters that they go through that process, because if they don't, then that means they could just be doing this to anyone, right? Because how do we know that what they're saying is true? If they say, well, he deserved to be deported, he deserves to
Do you not see the hypocrisy in you guys avoiding this process when these people come here? We have tens of millions of people here illegally because you did not hold them to the process legally.
I understand.
So, like, why is it now that you guys are throwing your hands up like the process?
Because there's a big difference. You guys, there's a big difference between people being sympathetic. There's a big difference between people because there's a big difference between people being sympathetic to the plights of illegal immigrants, which I agree. They should. Let me finish. I agree. They should go through the actual process. By the way, most of the people under Biden were trying to go through the legal asylum process, but regardless, if people are being, because people do this, they do sanctuary cities. They're like, hey, we're not going to follow the law. We're not going to follow the process. We're going to give amnesty or something to these people in these cities because we care about them, because we don't agree with this law, right? And you're saying that's hypocritical. I agree. That is a little hypocritical. The difference, however, is the magnitude of, hey, we're sympathetic to these people who are trying to come here and maybe make a better life for themselves, and hey, we're shipping people to a torture prison where they're going to get whipped to death.
El Salvador in El Salvador. That's what we did.
I will also
do you see how you just had to reframe that as, we just put him back to his home country?
El Salvador, where we've already confirmed he will be persecuted.
That's where he's from, right? It's a fucking torture prison, dude. That's
I agree with you guys that we should have due process before we deport people. But this idea that we aren't doing that is hyperbole.
We literally
know who we're deporting. We know they're not here legally. Like, we're not just randomly guessing. You guys are using this hyperbole because it's emotional.
Fine if they have
political attempt to try to win 26. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Wait. No, I need to.
Hold on. It's not the emotional attempt.
It's so fucking stupid. Wait. Let me speak. Let him cook. All right. Look, you just said we know who we're deporting and why we're deporting, and yet this completely contradicts what's exactly what happened, which the Trump admin says, oopsie doopsie, we deported someone we weren't supposed to deport because he had a fucking withholding order that said we can't put him in this country. So obviously we don't know because we're not following the process. This is clearly him saying, I don't care, which is happening, or I want to keep doing this, and that's why we're upset about it. It's not.
And to be clear, nobody is even arguing he could have theoretically been deported elsewhere. It's literally that he was deported specifically to the country where, from where he was seeking asylum. If he was deported to another country, this wouldn't be the same argument. But he's literally being sent back to the exact country where he was like, I need to be kept safe from this country.
They're all going to claim
kill me.
So Patuple,
okay, we already know.
The judge agreed with him, Pentuple. Okay. You fucking
even if
I agree, and the judge also agreed he was an MS-13 member, didn't he?
No.
Even if they're all going to claim that, it was already argued in 2019. It's not like he did this just now. He was about to be deported, and then he was like, wait. Like, this was in 2019. This was already figured out to some extent. And again, I'm not even ignore everything that he's doing here. When it comes down to it, I think we still should follow due process, dot all of our I's, cross all of our T's, because what you were bitching about, you said this exact phrase, you were bitching about the fact that we were arguing for dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's.
I'm just saying it's hyperbole and it's hypocritical because you guys just want to stop him from deporting anyone.
If you have issues with people not with other situations where people haven't been as thorough, like with immigration, then fucking go have that issue elsewhere. Because I don't think that's the issue being discussed here.
I
And I think it's.
you guys are dying on a weird hill. I don't know that this guy is the guy you want to put your neck out for.
Well, that's it. Go ahead.
I just don't. No. My point, though, is that every guy should be somebody you put your neck out for when it comes to due process being afforded to people by the state.
Affected by the mass illegal immigration that was allowed by this very ignoring of process.
I wasn't on Twitch poll at the time. I'm so sorry. I didn't give a notice to everybody publicly about it.
Why do you think we have this scale of worry about deportation? Because we have so many people here. We're pretending that we've started an issue. This issue started when we started allowing tens of millions of people to come here illegally. That's where this problem started. That's like that's the problem.
That there's an issue.
Let me just hold on.
I hear that there's an issue.
Yeah, okay. Taking control again. Listen, hey, I like the passion. I like it. It's good. All right, Tyler, you gotta raise your hand. Y'all been yelling for a moment there.
They're great. They go back and forth. Gives me time to write up some notes and look some things up. So a few problems. First, I want to address Pentuple.
Can I just give you a little more time?
Yeah, most of the people that were brought in under asylum, as Soy was saying, came in legally. They were using the asylum, I guess we'll call them loopholes. I'll get to that in 1 second. We saw that illegal border crossings, or gotaways as they're called, the border jumpers, actually the arrests went significantly up during Biden at a similar rate to how we saw border crossings generally go up. So it seems as though we were catching arguably a slightly lesser but similar per capita under the Biden administration of border hoppers specifically. So those people weren't coming in. If you want to claim that 10% of the people that came in under
no, it's not. The point is that we have. How many people do you think are here illegally, Tyler, in the country?
Illegally, like 15, 12, 15. I think.
Okay, that's the point.
Okay, but most of those have been here. A lot of
them. It doesn't matter. The point is that that's where the problem started when we had 15 million people somehow come in here. We're obviously not enforcing the law. And by the way, I don't think it's 15 million. I don't think it's 15 million.
Hold on.
You think all of them came over?
Wait. Let Tyler finish.
I've been enforcing our.
Okay, back to the mute. Okay, go ahead. Nope, calm down.
Pentuple, man, you're saying your justification is that illegal immigrants came in here illegally under Biden, so Trump is allowed to also bypass the law. It doesn't work like that. Like, if Biden did things illegal, like that visa program with Venezuela, 600,000 people came in that ended up being potentially illegal. If you want to argue that, 22 states sued him, shut it down. Huh?
I'm just saying that's why we're dealing with this issue at scale, because we've allowed this problem to get this. I'm saying you don't let 15 million people come here illegally if you're actually enforcing the law.
It's not like they all came in on one fucking day.
And deporting people instead of giving them court dates 10 years in the future and going through all of this due process that we afford them.
This is just
the reason that we have this many. The reason we have
this is not the tree
because we afford them such immense levels of due process that we basically can't deport anyone.
Yeah,
they can claim asylum. They can claim this. They can claim that. They can say,
let's go to shit.
Coach by attorneys to qualify and not get deported. That's part of the problem.
15 all right, let's go years to get there, dude. Right. It doesn't. It's not something you do overnight. So hold on. Let me hit the other side real quick too, because this idea that we need to see the evidence as the layman not involved in the court case, we need the DHS to go in and show us their counterterrorism efforts that probably took place in another country. The DHS has come out and said this guy was involved in human trafficking. They have evidence of it. That evidence has been reviewed by third parties. Congress also has access to that evidence. I watch Congress all the damn time. They are not saying the DHS has nothing. They're not making that claim at all. They're saying that it hasn't gone through the legal process. But they can go see that evidence, and if there was a nothing burger, they would tell us. They have not said that shit. So I think they have something bigger, and I just don't think they want to release it unless they have to.
Let's go to Shenandoah, because he was waiting. Go ahead, Shenandoah.
No, I was just gonna say I'm gonna go like way back to what you were saying earlier, Gibbs, about like would I deport this guy? Because Tyler, you were just bringing up that apparently they have some good evidence, and I'm just gonna take your word for it because like I don't fucking know what you're talking about, but I'll trust you. I have faith, and I mean honestly, if that's true, it's like to me, it's like okay, either deport him to the country, a country which he isn't being withheld from, or just like keep him in a fucking American prison. And I'd feel a lot more comfortable if he was in an American prison because again, like if there was any problems, like we at least have human rights in America. America is not like a foreign dictatorship. Like, okay, imagine this. Imagine if we were like, hey, China, brother. We want you to build like a little prison camp for us in like this fucking Spratly Islands, and we're gonna send like these fucking MS-13 gangbangers. And like they might all be MS-13 gangbangers, but I don't fucking trust the Chinese. I don't fucking want them to have the MS-13 gangbangers, right? Like that's fucking stupid and crazy. Like that's, and I definitely would not feel comfortable if, hey, it turns out we sent them over there and they didn't get their full legal rights. Like, you know, if some big part of the process in which they were tried and all that good stuff was skipped, like I would not feel good, you know? Like that's an important thing to maintain. That's an important institution to preserve.
The Chinese would never do that.
Are we saying that foreign nationals should get like are like entitled to American legal rights if they're like in other countries even now? Is that what you're
mean, according to the Supreme Court, the Constitution does apply to all residents in America. Do. Yeah, like all people in America do have like basic rights. Like you can't just like murder a foreign national, right? Because like that's bad. And the Constitution protects them, right? And similarly, you can't violate their freedom of speech, and you also can't violate like their right to due process. There are some basic things which all human beings have in America, which they should, which is good.
So we like these Americans.
Let's still point out here. Sorry, Billy, go ahead. You were waiting.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, it sounds like Pentuple, you don't disagree that he should have gotten his due process. You say we're overblowing it because, this is not good that he didn't get it, but in the long run, it's not a big deal because not ends justify the means.
He's a stinky butt.
He's a stinky boy, all right? And what I would say to that is the reason we're so concerned, again, and maybe I'm just trying to appeal to maybe a different angle of this, would you be upset if this was happening to people as a punishment for a crime, and you knew that like 1 in 1,000 people it happened to was happening to unjustly? Like, would that bother you?
What exactly is happening again?
That people are not being correctly charged with crimes because the due process isn't being followed.
Yeah,
so 1 in 1,000 people, right? So this is why it's like this is not the worst thing in the world, right? Like I didn't see this happen and think, oh God, right? Like this potential gangbanger or a person who shouldn't have been here got deported to the wrong place. And like, yeah, that's bad. It's bad that he's in a torture prison. It's bad that like he wasn't a good person. But like at the end of the day, if it just stopped here, it was like, okay, like they fucked up, maybe they'll fix it. Like I'd be upset, but this isn't like I'm not gonna die on that hill. It's
I'll admit I think he should have gotten his process. Would you admit he should probably get deported ultimately?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would have zero issue if today Trump got him back into the country, appealed the withholding, and said, "All right, or not even appealed the withholding, just said, fuck it, where you have an extradition agreement or whatever with Guatemala, you're in Guatemala now." Okay, sure. That is the legal process. Nothing has been violated. But the problem is this looks like an indicator of how he's going to be treating other people. And especially when he's in the Oval Office with Bukalele or whatever the fuck his name is and saying, hey, we're not just going to stop here. We're also going to start doing this to American citizens. And he's like, yeah, he says it's the worst of the worst, which makes it easy to defend, right? It's like, well, hey, they're rapists and murderers. Like, you don't like those guys, right? But this is how it starts, right? And you keep going. So it's not just, hey, this one time they fucked up. It's an indicator of what's to come. And I think that you should at least be worried, if not like, you don't have to die on the hill, but just look at this as an indicator of, hey, I really wouldn't like if this happened to me. I hope they only apply this to the people I don't like. And if you believe that's going to happen, cool. But I really think everyone should be having their due process just to make sure that they're only doing it to the people they say they're going to do. And then I can argue about whether or not we should be sending people to torture prisons.
Okay.
Based. Agree. That's my position as well. That's completely my position.
I think like we're deporting people, and the process should follow the process to deport people, and yeah,
agree.
Well,
17
and he should be deported.
I don't agree on all.
All right, yeah. Moving on to the next
stream.
I think it's. I'll say I think it's a little hyperbolic that you think like him ignoring this withholding order. I don't even think he's going to continue withholding. Or like the theory here, if the Supreme Court hadn't said anything, is he going to continue to like just ignore all of this type of order? Like anyone who has like an order like this has to worry. I mean, we're not even in that scenario right now. Trump hasn't indicated to continue to do this or anything like that.
But it's reasonable to assume that like the layman might. I feel like it's reasonable to assume like the uneducated layman might be worried. I mean, you can't expect every single individual.
You're always going to be scared.
But also you just can't expect every single individual to be researching all of these different topics while they're also working a 9 to 5. They also might have a family. Like they got shit going on. Well, I'm saying for the average individual who may be working 30 to 40 hours a week, okay, there's like I just don't expect every single person in the country to be completely educated on this individual topic enough so that they feel satiated in their fears. Like, I think it's reasonable for people to be worried about their rights if they see other people's rights being violated.
So, are you worried about the death penalty?
Hold on. This is a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about next, because I also want to talk about what is self-defense here. Because
Can you stab someone because they put my hands on you?
But hold on, because there's two aspects to this. She brought up the layman, like not understanding the law, and there's lately been quite a bit of debate with Kyle Rittenhouse, and then with Daniel Penny, and now with Carmela Anthony, talking about what is self-defense and what is going on and what's fair. I mean, even today, I was arguing with people online about it. I was like, well, what do we think is? What is the rule? I posted the Texas Penal Code somewhere. I mean, everybody's arguing. So, like, what are we calling self-defense now? Is this is it all free game? Are you just calling everything like, anything can go? Do the laymen have to worry that they no longer can keep their guns in their pockets and shoot people trying to rob them? Or is this all a big brouhaha? What's happening? Since you seem so excited, Buckaroo, you can start us off.
Yeah, I just wanted to say my position on Kyle Rittenhouse, even though I didn't agree with his I thought bad idea, probably shouldn't go to the city, probably shouldn't be armed. When it came to the argument about his self-defense, I actually agree that it was self-defense. I think he was being attacked and he had a gun in his hands and he shot the guy that was attacking him. I think a lot of leftists are very unwilling to accept that because they judge him on an individual level, kind of shitty decision to go to this rioting city to bring a firearm. Like, all of these are messy choices, but I don't blame people for their messy choices that get them into other volatile interactions where they're being assaulted. So why am I going to fucking judge Kyle Rittenhouse, a teenager, for doing similarly? On that count, I do think it was
asking for it. Look what he was carrying.
Yeah, exactly. I was disgusted by the justification offered by the right that the guy he shot was a pedophile, so it was fine. Like, even if he was breaking the law, the guy he shot, this is an argument I saw a lot. You guys can tell me your positions, but it's something I heard a lot, which was just, well, they were bad people, so even if he was breaking the law, it's okay because he removed, people who were a detriment to society. And that's another case where I'm glad you brought this up because I was thinking about it too. It's another case where even if we don't like the people, there are some cases where we want them to be afforded, the right, the justice system.
But I think that argument online was more to justify making memes about it. Hold on. People were like, why are you justifying death?
Hold on. We're just going to go to circle here. We'll let everybody give an opening on it, and then we'll turn it open. Go ahead.
I just want to turn it back. That is what allowed Kyle Rittenhouse the right to argue that it was self-defense. And I think that's why he won. Because, even if we're affording these rights to the people who were attacked, we're also affording it to Kyle Rittenhouse. That's the nature of having a government, of having a system where there are rules that we actually try to follow when we apply law. So when it came to the Kyle Rittenhouse circumstance, again, I think it was self-defense. I think he's just a dumbass, but he's a teenager. All teenagers are dumbasses.
Man, white beaters and now pedophiles? You're fucking me here, bud. You're like, I'm
trying to hit all of them.
It's almost as if I care about the law more than I do about my personal opinion. Ooh.
Yeah, let's go to soy pill next year. Go ahead. We'll go backwards.
For the specific case that came up with the stabbing, I mean, I don't know enough details about it. I don't think anyone does, other than the witnesses there, to really know what happened. I mean, just based on what we've heard, though, it's interesting. It sounds like a guy got in a scuffle and he brought a knife to a fist fight and then stabbed a guy to death, which I don't think is self-defense, unless there's a very rare circumstance where it turns out the guy was like, hey, I'm about to grab your head and slam it into the bleachers 100 times until you perish, and I'm going to make sure you're dead. That maybe he could justify that he feared for his life, but I don't think this person should get off. He, had an unparalleled use of force on this guy. However, what's really interesting is the narrative about it. The only reason I know about it is because the right won't shut the fuck up about it, and I think that does have to do with the races of the people. It's a black guy who is the knife wielder and a white guy who got stabbed, and I'm seeing now people are doing like the biggest protest maybe in all of history to protest this guy's bond where he got released $250K or whatever, and it's just very interesting that like they're comparing this because there seems to be this outrage at BLM because they will go out and protest when someone gets unjustly killed by the police, but when someone dies in what is very clearly a crime, I would think people get like all up in arms like, oh, why isn't BLM out protesting this white kid's death? And it's like, well, because he was killed by someone unjustly, and there's nothing to protest. Like, he's probably going to go to jail for it. Now, if he gets out for it and people want to protest, I think they should. But the same with the Rittenhouse thing and same with the Daniel Penny thing. It's this weird scenario where sure there's some process of the law is followed, and people have their opinions on the rulings. I personally think Kyle Rittenhouse, as to quote my favorite Rittenhouse rapper, was innocent. However, it's more of the fact that now if I killed two people in a way that I didn't want to, and I cried about it because I clearly have PTSD, I would not go up on stage at CPAC and brag about it and become this like right-wing hero, because you're not a hero, right? Like, you got into a very unfortunate situation. Same with Daniel Penny. I think the weird lionization of these figures is disturbing, and I think the outrage about it is kind of weirdly racially motivated against BLM.
All right. Hey, yeah, I mean, I want to say before I turn it over to Shenandoah, I will say it's interesting you say that, because I've actually had a very opposite experience. I only picked this as a topic because the only people I've seen post about it are people that I consider leaning left. And so that's the only. So I was like, well,
maybe it's my algorithm.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is.
I definitely think social media algorithm. And
I'm sure that's a big factor. And my Twitter one's kind of weird because I follow like all sorts of people, left and right, Because I only use Twitter for politics and like shouting shit out, right? So I don't know what it's thinking with that. I mean, but I don't know. I find it kind of interesting that you're saying it's only the righties, and I had a very different experience today, and that's literally the only reason I'm up. But go ahead, Shenandoah.
Oh, I got nothing.
All right, fantastic. Go ahead.
I got nothing.
I'll say, as of the facts right now, there's just nothing justifying it. I mean, it's hard to imagine a fact that wouldn't already be out there that would justify it. And just to respond to that one thing, the words alone wouldn't actually be enough, but if the other kid had a knife, or if he genuinely believed the other kid had a knife, or like this kid had a death grip around his throat,
well, the words alone, I think, if you're threatening someone and getting in their face, that's enough, right? Like, I think that's what happened in the Daniel Penny case, right? Like, he wasn't physically.
It's explicit. It's explicit in Texas that words alone will not justify self-defense. That's like in the 9.32.
Sure. But what I mean is, like, words and getting in someone's face. I'm not even trying to argue. I'm just curious.
Yeah, but that's now we're talking about the action associated with it. Yes.
Sure. Right. So, like, getting in their face and being like, "I'm going to kill you," and like, doing a show of force, and he put his hand on him, right? So it's like, like in the Daniel Penny case, I think the guy that was strangled, right, was not physically doing anything until the point of which he was grabbed, but he was saying, "I'm going to kill you," going up in people's face, threatening people, right? Like, so, and I would say that, like,
go to the actions,
were this white kid doing the same thing.
This is going to come down to like what he put his hands on me looked like. They were going to literally have lawyers in the courtroom based on witness testimony, like trying to show the jury physically like what that touch was, because there are lines there where it can be crossed. I don't think any of the facts justify that, but I will push back. I think the reason this is big is partially because social media and clickbait, but also I think because of the Give, Send, Go funds. I think there's a lot of money being raised for this kid under the impression that he's going to argue self-defense, when all of the facts suggest he's probably going to plead guilty to first-degree or second-degree murder. Like, I don't even think he's going to take this to a jury. So the story is interesting because it's like there's this clearly large group of people, they've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars, that for some reason, the question would just be to them, what is the fact that justified this as self-defense in your mind that you felt like you wanted to donate? Like, how is this not just a classic murder case? I think it is. I think it'll finish up as one.
It seems like
but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Well, see, I mean, I will say the facts that we have right now make no sense. Like, it literally doesn't make sense that this kid just stabbed someone in the heart, like, as soon as any altercation started. So, like, but they're also saying, like, the kids had no prior altercation, which I think is going to be huge as far as first or second degree murder. I don't think it'll get him off of murder, but I mean, maybe he's just like this whacked out kid that got mad at him, and he was just a random kid that fucked with him. You know what I mean? Like, this does go sort of to the, like, crazy fucking, like, he's just a crazy guy. Maybe he's pleading insanity. I don't know. Like, it makes no sense what the fuck happened here, I will admit. But as far as any sort of fact coming out that justifies Carmelo being in reasonable fear of deadly force, we literally we don't have anything close. And it's funny because if you look up, like, how can self-defense fail? Like, especially through law school, like the classic example has always been like, oh, well, like if he comes up and like grabs me, can I stab him? And it's like, well, no, like you can't just, like there is a proportionate like force that you can use. You have to be in reasonable fear of deadly force. And we don't have that just because he put his hands on me, which is like basically the only fact we have from the police report. We're going to have to see what the witnesses say. But I feel like if with this many witnesses, there would have been something out there that got out that was like, yeah, Austin also had a knife. Like Austin had like, even if he didn't like flip out the knife, just like holding like anything that was like, maybe he like picked up a big fucking rock. Maybe he had like a big fucking sharp rock. Maybe he picked up a piece of like a broken metal bench and he had that in his hand. Like, we need a fact like that. And until there is, I think that people are going to look at this confused because it's like, this just looks like a murder case. And like, why are people sympathizing and rushing to the defendant? And then, the clickbait and racial stuff gets in. But I don't think that this was started by like some anti-BLM thing. I think it started by Facebook algorithms and the Give, Send, Go funds.
All right, Tyler, go ahead.
I think that the judges should actually just skip this small step and not put the kid on trial and let him go, because it was due process. Hold on, it was due process up to that point.
I mean, what's the point? We already know he's guilty.
Yeah, it's due process.
God.
Send him to El Salvador.
Like, just put him in prison.
I don't. I mean, like, fuck.
See, that's when you realize he's a lawyer on camera.
You're getting me.
He's like, I don't actually
Hey, this is my opening right now.
If I was Pisco, I'd be really pissed right now.
Would you sue them?
I want to use this opportunity.
I don't think
I want to bring up that our society punishes people for being informed on these cases. So generally, I don't look into them, because if you're too informed, if you care too much, if you formulate an opinion, you're not allowed on the fucking jury. And I want to be on a murder jury. I think it sounds fucking cool.
True. That's so real. Oh my god.
True.
That's the realest
Tyler.
Oh, I totally agree with you right now.
Yeah, I want to.
I served on two juries. I served on a rape jury, and I served on a criminal rape jury, and I served on a civil car accident jury.
That's so
Is it wrong to be jealous of jury duty?
No,
dude. Honestly, if you get jury duty, you should go.
Yes, it's wrong.
Go and do it and be proud. And it's actually really interesting. And I fucked up. I should have been harder in that civil case.
All right. Focus on
about my position
annoying woman. I'll tell you later.
The state. I just have to say, I wouldn't have to lie about my position.
I can't get on jury duty either because I'm a racist. So anyway, as Ben alluded,
go ahead, Tyler.
There is a bit of...
Come on, Tyler, say the N-word. Just do it.
Yeah, and that's what the judge is going to do, and if you don't say it, he's going to arrest you for perjury.
So there is a credible fear of death component that needs to be added to self-defense, even in stand your ground state. You have to show that you are a credible fear of death was there and present. But one part you're leaving out is, what if the kid's 3 friends were standing behind him, cracking their fucking knuckles, not saying or doing anything, but showing that they were
like one of these
hoodlums?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, if you had this situation
they
going
flip
on,
their hat down, they cover an eye,
gonna convince
and
a
like,
jury that
yes, all he has to do is say, if all 4 of these dudes attack me, my life is in their hands.
If they weren't at a high school track meet and they were in like a back alley, you might have a better argument. But I don't think a jury is going to be these 3 high school kids were going to kill you.
Let him finish. Tyler, go ahead and finish.
High school kids are pretty brutal. I trust none of them.
It's pretty brutal, but I don't think we're
real bad today. Real bad. Y'all are bad.
Yeah,
bad.
I think
you've been good. And so I've been good. But you do. Very bad.
I heard your statement. I heard your statement. All you guys made a lot of maybe statements, and that tells me we don't have enough facts of the case and things that the court would allow in to make a reasonable determination either way on this. We don't know if he pounced like T'Challa or he pounced like T'Challa that was defending himself. So I'd say we just kind of hold it up and wait until we see what the judge allows into the courtroom.
All right.
Alluding that he's Black Panther. What?
I don't know. Black Panther uses blades.
I never saw that movie.
No, he has
vibranium, okay, brother? We all know he's hiding the vibranium. Nobody can know.
If you let him pick a superhero, he'd probably pick.
I'm so glad you referenced Black Panther. Literally the only Marvel movie I see.
What the fuck?
Maybe.
I needed the knife. I needed the blade for the analogy.
Yeah.
And Pentuple, being the defendant does not count as jury duty, right?
Whoa, hey yo. That criminal case was not nice. All right, I didn't.
Nice save.
Oh my god, it was a wild case. Not guilty, by the way. If you're curious, not guilty.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's why you're on right now, obviously.
You know, my high school language arts teacher was on the jury with me.
Oh man, I thought you were going to say something so much worse.
I was seeing
Yeah,
that going on.
No, I was on the jury. What is my
high school arts? I thought you were going to say like my high school arts teacher was the rapist or something like that.
No, I wouldn't have been able to serve on that jury.
All right,
I would have been able to serve on that jury.
Let's get back to the topic here. All right.
We're having too much fun. We have to get back.
Too much fun. Yeah,
I would have been probably testifying.
So okay, yeah. So Tyler brought up if there's 3 people standing beside him, and you seem to have objections to that. Pintupple. Go ahead. What were your objections
to what?
To Tyler's scenario where there's 3 people giving him the old snaps behind him.
Well,
that's
would only be
not,
scared if they were stacked on top of each other in a giant trench coat.
I mean, like this is, I like, yeah. If you had like, we could introduce like any scenario, and we could find like, yeah, you can cross the line to reasonable fear.
Can I kill him then?
If what?
What if they threaten to make me gay? Can I kill him then?
Yeah.
How does it work?
Well, that's self-preservation kicking in. I'm just gonna black out. Whatever happens.
Just because when Pintupple sees 4 guys standing behind him, and he assumes he's gonna have a good night, doesn't mean it's.
I'm homophobic. I'd probably run and black out and.
He's literally homophobic.
You're only homophobic because you're scared of yourself, Pintupple. Once you accept yourself,
stop.
you won't feel this way anymore.
Anyway,
you're triggering me.
I
was born this way.
Make a good
Focus up.
You were born this way, and I respect that.
Oh my god! All right, focus up, boys.
All right, okay, Dad.
Okay, so yeah, is 3 guys standing behind him at track meet potentially enough?
No, I don't think that's going to be enough for
the
jury to be like, yeah, you were definitely like about to die.
So why?
Yeah, not unless they were showing like signs of violence.
So why is this any different than say like in the Daniel Penny scenario where the guy is over here yelling at old ladies and like flinching at him, but not?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the facts of Daniel Penny as well as like maybe Rittenhouse, but like,
well, the thing
you need reasonable fear. It's the same element. I mean, they met that element in the Penny case. Like the jury obviously
the jury decided that, which I actually disagree with that one. I think Daniel Penny probably should be charged for manslaughter because I think he was doing the right thing, which is stopping someone from, causing altercations and threatening people, but he took it a little too far and held him longer than he needed to, and that caused his death. And, that's sad. I don't think he should be like, he's not some evil person. He was doing what he thought was right, and probably something I might have done in that scenario, but he kind of took it a little too far, and I think that's one of those unfortunate accidents. And the difference being that Rittenhouse actually had people like trying to.
He had a gun to his head at one point.
He had a gun to his head.
You had a reasonable fear of deadly force.
And he was running away, right? So these are very different
him.
You should have just let him get shot, obviously.
That was the 3rd guy, and he didn't actually get the gun to his head. He was raising it up.
Because Rittenhouse is the quickest kid in the West.
Threatening him with the skateboard too, and then you just have to assume if there are multiple people chasing after him, threatening him with violence, one of them already has like a weapon that they're threatening to bludgeon you with. I think at that point, like obviously it's self-defense. You're being attacked. You're being chased by people. Like,
that's why I compared it more to the Daniel Penny case than the Rittenhouse case. Like I think the Rittenhouse case is a little further along, like where it's like clear.
Yeah.
There's like violence happening. It's like even in like an area where a riot arguably has been happening. Like I feel like that's different. But versus like the Daniel Penny one, which seems like it's very similar almost, where it's like this guy threatened him and then he like flipped through like a fist at some old lady and was saying crazy things. But I mean, I guess we don't know what these guys have told this kid, but if one is that fine, why is the other one not fine? And what are our thoughts?
Well, on the Daniel Penny case, it seems like he chose to take action against this man. And again, not to like, I'm not making comments about the actions of all these people being justified. He chose to take that action against him, where Kyle Rittenhouse was put in a circumstance where he had to take some sort of action to defend himself. And I agree, that doesn't sound like a lot of difference, but it is. Like, if somebody shoves you versus somebody just comes up and says, I'm going to shove you, like, those are 2 different circumstances, one of which where you may feel like you need to defend yourself, and the other one where you may feel like you just walk away or say, don't push me. So with the circumstance of Kyle Rittenhouse, he was being chased. Like, there were people actively pursuing him and attempting to do something. What is he going to do? Yeah, like, what is he going to do when it comes to Rittenhouse? Like,
that's why I moved it past Rittenhouse. That's why I moved it past Rittenhouse.
Well, I'm trying to compare it to Penny.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to compare it to Penny.
Penny was like defensive others, arguably, because
he's pushed to defend himself. Well, I agree. Like, I understand, and I agree he was defending other people, but he chose to pursue that interaction versus Rittenhouse being pursued and having to respond to pursuance, which is where
the other variable
I think there's a difference.
Is that we're talking about Daniel Penny, who I think, and I'm not that familiar, but we're talking about someone who's acting in self-defense of others, which is in the same sort of argument, but like Daniel Penny may not have been in reasonable fear himself, but maybe this like elderly woman that, you know, was thrown to the floor. So I don't know what the facts were, but there was something that put someone else in reasonable fear of like serious bodily harm or death or whatever. So that would be different than like, I don't know. I mean, there's just that variable is sort of in play here with what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just a little different. Like, there's a different application of all of these perspectives. Like, it's not self-defense, but it is defense of someone, of the self of someone. You know, I agree. There are like similarities, but I just don't think it's a one-to-one because Daniel Penny chose to pursue the interaction, even if he was doing it with like moral justification, with what a lot of us agree is moral justification, whereas Kyle Rittenhouse, that wasn't a choice. He couldn't choose to interact. He was forced to interact with those people, and he had to respond in some way. And there are only like a select amount of responses that you could have to that circumstance, and especially if you're being chased down by multiple people, they're clearly upset with you, they might be yelling threats at you. Like, that is going to be a circumstance where, at least personally, I'd be scared for my life at that point. If like multiple people are chasing me down, trying to get my weapon so that I can't defend myself, even if they have other reasonings, that's just like, that's scary shit. Where I just don't think it's the same kind of interaction with Daniel Penny, even if you guys see it as justified. I'm not even trying to argue whether it's justified.
And Gibbs, like on the most recent one with this stabbing, I think the hard part is that we really just don't have the facts. Like, we have no idea what happened. Now, on its face, like Pentuple said, like based on what we know, it's probably not justified. There are very few things that I could think of that would say, yeah, it's justified that this man with fists should have, you know, been stabbed to death, and maybe he didn't even know he had a knife too, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible to kill someone with your fist. One punch in the wrong spot can kill you. So, but the jury has to be shown that you actually feared for your life, and I think it's going to be incredibly hard for him to prove that. But there are scenarios where it could happen. And I don't think we necessarily even disagree on the minutia here. It probably wouldn't even matter, because what really matters is what like a jury will think, or what the, you know, precedent for this is. But yeah, if they're like, hey, we're going to kill you, and like that sort of thing, that's like kind of the only thing that really matters. So that's why it's harder to talk about this case. It's happened like a very recently. The facts aren't there, and like speculating on it could be fun, but we just don't know. But it just seems bad.
Well, I think it's fair to point out everything you just said. I totally agree with. I think the fair thing to point out is that it's hard to imagine what fact could come out that justifies it that wouldn't already have come out. So like, we do have a significant amount of facts. We don't have, I don't think, sufficient facts like that. It's, you know, like that this is like that we could argue the court case or anything. So we'll have to see what comes out with all of the evidence, but it's just hard to imagine that there's any evidence that will come out. I think that's what makes it so interesting. And I was wondering, because like he's the kid spending all these articles, and I don't know how much of it's true that the kid's like blowing all his money on like cars and a new house and stuff. But I think it kind of makes sense if he's going to just end up pleading. And there's like, yeah, write up the pleading, and then we'll take all that self-defense argument money for the trial and go, you know, get a nice place and enjoy my last year before I spend life in prison. Because I think he's going to plead guilty, and I think he could plead guilty to second-degree murder if he argues like, "Oh, I didn't know him. I was just provoked and really like upset and freaked out." And they're like, "Okay, well,
let's. I think we're kind of in similar stances on this, so let's just go out in left field. Or go ahead. Did you want to say something specific, Tyler?
No, I said we're circling the drain.
Yeah,
Tyler was saying some bullshit about Admiral Gibbs.
I think this is interesting, y'all. That you just brought up was the GoFundMe thing, right? And I think that we've seen several cases where the GoFundMes for people have been used for pretty wild stuff other than what they were supposed to be used for, and fundraising. Do we like I mean, I guess the on the conservative side, the argument would be like, did you see what the BLM heads, you know, bought all mansions and shit, and you know, and then on you know, and then I guess like there's like on the, I don't know what the equivalent left one is. I'm sure there's one that we often point to, like a GoFundMe or something, go into some crazy shit. But like
fucking Keppels.
Do we think
like
that
the wall GoFundMe
literally
that Trump
Keppels?
up and then
Sure, fuck, I was trying to think of it.
yeah, sure. There's
I was trying.
example, should there be more like heavy charges like sought after people that use these GoFundMes for fraud? I don't know what it should be, but like for these people who use GoFundMes for
I want to commit fraud, so I say no.
This is one of those cases.
I mean, and we can use any case here. I'm just kind of like throwing this out here because I don't really see any like ramifications happening that often for people that get these GoFundMes that go do wild shit. Like, what are our thoughts on this?
Can I go before Pent, because I think he probably is more educated, so he can maybe answer the questions.
Well, I don't have that strong of a take here. I was just gonna say, well, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think some of the question there is like the difference between legal and social. Like, where are the ramifications reasonable enough to reach like legal issues? You know, some of these I think are just, you know, there are some issues where it's like, bitch, I don't care if they're arrested. I just want that bitch yelled at. Like, sometimes I don't need them to be sought out by the court of law. I just need them to be belittled enough by their peers that they just don't do that shit again. And there are some things that I think are, based on precedent, but also just if you think within the future, there are some things you don't want to pursue legally, because down the line it could just mean a lot more for other circumstances that maybe are less cut and dry when it comes to fraud.
Well, I was also going to ask, is there any specific terms on these fucking GoFundMes?
I don't feel like it.
Because is it just give me money because I am sad?
To be clear,
I think ultimately it probably does have some sort of disclaimer that the people can. I mean, I don't know what it says, but I do think that the point is.
I did a GoFundMe for my ex's fucking birthday. Okay, it was just give me money for my ex to get him a present. That was the GoFundMe.
Well, that's not exactly what I'm talking about, though. I
think you should be sent to an El Salvadorian mega prison.
I'm saying, GoFundMe at least as a site, it doesn't seem to have all of these really harsh stipulations.
But hold on, there's a
seems like the times that they have shut down petitions or fundraisers, it's been because people have argued and been like, what the fuck are you doing, GoFundMe? And the GoFundMe shuts it down. It doesn't seem like, at least in my experience from what I've witnessed, it doesn't seem like GoFundMe is shutting down all of these petitions left and right without some sort of public outcry.
It's on Give, Send, Go, I think, that they're running it. But I do think that Gibbs has a point in saying, is it... And because people are talking about, they're buying cars and, moving and stuff, which I think they can justify by saying, we needed to get to a new place. We don't want people just showing up at our, little townhouse or, wherever they live. I don't know. But I do think that there's something that's equally fraudulent, I would argue, is to saying hey, we're raising money for self-defense, and then they end up pleading guilty. I mean, that's going to do reputational damage to these funding websites when they're we're raising $300,000 to argue self-defense for Carmelo Anthony, and then people donate, and then they see that he's arguing or he's pleading guilty to second-degree murder. It's wait, hold on, and here's the thing, you're donating to his legal fund. I mean, his lawyers aren't bound by GoFundMe donos. That's not how it works. So, it's weird for these platforms, I think, in these scenarios, because it really can bite you. But at the same time, it's you don't want to be in the business of trying to guess how these are going to how these outcomes are going to come. So, I wouldn't want to be in GoFundMe's position here anyway, because it's I don't know that you want to say, no, you can't raise funds for this because we know how it's going to result. Even if you do know how it's going to result, it's just that's a tough.
But okay,
you're getting too much of judging.
Yeah, let me hold on. Let me just be fair.
Can I drop some hot sauce in this debate, Gibbs? Do you guys think that the bond was reduced to $250,000 because he's black?
No. I think it was reduced because he's probably got no prior criminal history. He's a minor. He's not really they just don't think he's a threat to others. I don't think actually it was anything to be surprised by.
That's actually.
I don't think he's. I think it's it's whatever. Yeah.
At least from what I've seen, about bond state, when judges
wouldn't be legal to do it.
Bonds, at least it seems like when judges have made statements about it, it's been related to their likelihood of recommitting, of harming other people. In my experience, at least, that's what bond's been directly related to, is their chances of harming other individuals in the period of time between arrest and sentencing.
So what I'm saying, let's just expand it from GoFundMe. Let's talk maybe fundraising specifically for something in general, right? Because I feel I see this all the time where people will say we're fundraising for a new home, right? It's one thing to use a GoFundMe and hey, I'm gonna go to my birthday. If you give me $50,000, I'm gonna go spend it on blow and hookers. That's one thing, right? But if you're gonna hey, you're gonna give me if I need a new car and you give me $50,000 and in my GoFundMe and then I go spend it on blowing hookers. That's like a problem to me because it's like you said you were gonna use this for one thing and we use it but it doesn't seem like these are like drastically enforced except for at a social level where like, yeah, did you see this guy rip off his funding thing? He was getting a funding for grandma's funeral and he bought a Porsche. Then they're just like, yeah, poo-poo on that guy. But it doesn't ever seem like they've suffered any legal ramifications. Should we start like putting legal ramifications on this kind of thing, or what are our thoughts here?
I don't know. I mean, like, if it's fraud,
not?
Yeah, fuck it.
Why not? Why are you trying to bring the law into more shit? Fucking just ruin your social lives, brother. I don't know why you need to. Look, personally, I think it's actually.
I'm paid
really
by
important.
big law. I don't know. Like, what do you want?
If I'm gonna let people buy meme coins, we've got to let them donate to fucking obvious murder cases.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, you can buy Trump coin. You
can buy Trump coin. You can fucking donate to Carmelo Anthony.
Like if there's a fraud case, do a civil case. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they're knowingly raising money, I think you probably could charge them with fraud. Like Shannon was saying, if they are knowingly, like we already spoke with our legal team, we're pleading second-degry murder, but we're gonna go over to GoFundMe, keep typing up all this stuff about self-defense, and keep meeting with like public media and saying self-defense. Like that. I mean, that does feel like that should already just be a fraud, and like you're doing that.
If it's fraud, it's fraud. Okay.
So
we're not gonna do anything new.
Wait, Sophie, what do you think?
I'm so checked out. I just don't give a shit about this at all. It's just a guy stabbed a guy, and it's like, hey,
Right.
you know what? Like, there's people being deported unjustly right now, and we were talking about it. I was really invested, and now my wiener is flaccid. I'm sorry, I'm not erect right now.
Get a harder woman. Simple as.
Tyler, go ahead.
I definitely think that Harvard is fighting right now to preserve the right to be bigots against Jewish people. That's what I think.
Okay, can I make my wait? Is this going to go to Harvard bigotry?
Go ahead.
Fraud is already on the books. Like you can fucking already bring up fraud. But personally, I guess I think it's important for every leftist. I'm personally still going through this process of deciding what actually is and isn't reasonable to bring legal matters into. Like there are some circumstances where it's like, bro, just fucking talk shit. Like, just talk about how you think that guy's a fucking asshole. He does all this stupid shit and you don't trust him. Don't give him your money. Like, you can just tell that to your friends. So I think there are some circumstances when it comes to cases like people asking for money on GoFundMe. Like, I don't know if that's something that I would say we need legal matters brought into this in a way that they haven't been before, as opposed to just saying we need to fucking have backbones when it comes to being in social communities. Like people act up, fucking they can find out from you. Okay, you don't need to bring all these legal matters into it, especially if fraud is already on the table as an opportunity. Like what new legislation is going to save us from GoFundMe versus the legislation that's already on the books?
Hey, Buckaroo, welcome to the Republican Party. Anyway, so so let's
I'm still leftist. To be clear, I'm still leftist.
Can I ask a contentious question?
I'm just a leftist that doesn't lick the boot.
After Soypil asks his question.
Yeah, like
we're gonna do some closing.
I don't know if this is like a Gibbs or a Pentuple question, but like, I mean, this might be even a whole new thing. But why do you think like the right wing kind of lionizes these Rittenhouse characters or these Daniel Penny characters? Because my big issue with that is that they did things that may not have been illegal and I think are tragic, but the fact that they're like turned into these like pundits, and like the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse has like a platform now to speak, and it's not about this like persecution thing. It's like, actually, you're a hero. Daniel Penny, you're a hero. Like, what do you think about that?
I think that is largely. I think the reason for the answer to your question is that's just Kyle's personality and what Kyle chose to do with his opportunity that he was given. I think a lot of these people choose probably to just become recluse and drift back out. Kyle Rittenhouse saw an opportunity, and he probably had an interest in being politically active. I think that's what happened. He saw his opportunity after having a national news story, and he took it. It's like, the same reason that like the Hawk Tuah girl is famous, arguably. Like you had an opportunity, you got national fame, and that's the personality that likes to do that. I think like there's plenty of people who probably could have been in Kyle's exact position that don't have that personality. Like Daniel Penny does. I don't know that he's like very outgoing or active. He probably could. Daniel Penny wanted to start a podcast.
They started inviting him to stuff. They're like, hey, come meet Daniel Penny. He's like so good.
but I'm saying like Daniel Penny, if he wanted to, could probably start a podcast and get a huge head start. But I don't think he's doing that because it's probably just not his interest. That's probably what it comes down to for a lot of these cases.
As to what you're saying, though, I think that it's just the nature of like humanity, because I feel like I see it on the left too, where they pick somebody and they lift them up. But I think it's just in general. I think people do that, and these guys have like name recognition, and I think name recognition is very important. And if you can conduct yourself with a modicum of like speaking ability, then I think that then you have an opportunity that other people aren't going to have, and like kind of like Pentuple will take it. Like if you remember Zimmerman, right? He was like everybody was talking about him. He was controversial, but he hasn't really gotten. Like I don't think he's.
No, he did. He did tours. He was around signing stuff. Like that's what I'm talking about. Where it's like if I accidentally killed someone in a tragic accident, I'd fucking disappear forever because I'd never be able to forgive myself for having, even justifiably taken 2 lives, and yet these people are going paraded around. What's the banner at the CPAC that says "We're all domestic terrorists" or whatever? It's like it's kind of gross to me. I just don't like the way they do it.
I mean, I just think
is he supposed to like reject opportunities? Like, say he had an interest in being a radio host, is he supposed to be like, oh, I can't be a radio host now because like?
I mean, yeah, if he had like a modest,
there's no way to avoid it.
Shame, I think he would do that, but he doesn't.
I guess.
So.
I mean, I don't know. I'd probably take a check. If like someone was like, I'm going to give you $50K to come give a speaking thing about your whatever happened, then I might be like, okay. Like, I mean, okay, I'll give you an example. Monica Lewinsky is now famous for giving Bill Clinton head. Right? Like,
no, she's famous because the court case got blown up and it turned into an impeachment trial.
Regardless.
She didn't blow that up. She's a victim in that situation.
But she sold.
Is we talking about?
Like Monica, but
Monica
I mean, it's
Lewinsky.
the same thing. She's kind of like, like she's in a scenario where it's like, oh, I'm famous for being a hoochie mama, right?
But she also didn't kill anyone. She sucked Bill Clinton's dick.
I mean,
so
that's fair.
Not exactly comparable.
I mean, it's not exactly comparable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it is.
The crime she committed was slobbing up a knob? That doesn't seem like a crime to me.
It's similar. It's similar. Anyway, let's give some closings and tell everybody where to find y'all, and we'll get out of here because we're reaching about that time.
It was funny.
We'll start with Tyler. Go ahead, Tyler. Tell us what you do, where you find you, all that good jazz.
I'm Tyler, average debate enjoyer. I'm watching these fucking 2 idiot leftists go back and forth in my chat here, talking about how like Jews being persecuted on campus is fine because
I love you guys. Stay strong. Believe in yourself.
Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said at the end of that sentence?
Yeah, I got some questions, bro.
Wait, did he say pedophiles? I heard the Jews part.
No, I was like wife beaters, pedophiles, and now anti-Semites. It's like I can't fucking take you, man.
I know.
Guys.
I'm so sorry that I believe in supporting the law before supporting the random whim of every person. Like when they wake up, however they feel, just supporting their fucking whim. No, thank you. I support the laws that I do. And I challenge the ones that I don't. Simple as.
So I guess that was Tyler's closing, but
now see you later.
I guess it doubles it doubles for Buckaroos now. Pentuple, go ahead. I guess.
What? For closing?
Yeah. Tell us where you're at.
If his legal team's any good, he'll plead guilty to 2nd-degree murder.
Fantastic. And anything else?
That's probably 1st degree.
All right, fantastic. That was good. Pentuple's got poker coming up, guys. Check it out. Shenandoah.
Poker, let's go tomorrow.
Yeah, Shenandoah.
Shenandoah, that's me. Hi, my name's Chairman Shenandoah. I like due process, and I don't fucking give a shit about this guy who stabbed another guy. I don't know. Sounds like a bad place to be. I kind of got nothing else. Fantastic. It just sounds like it fucking sucks.
He's one bad hombre, it seems like.
He's one bad hombre.
Yeah. Soy pill.
Man.
Yeah, I think everyone should be very scared right now of the current Trump admin. He's talking about not stepping down as president, running for a 3rd term, saying, hey, we can't let me stop being president because then they'll undo all the stuff that I did. This is like, 5-alarm file, scary fucking shit. He's deporting people, the writing's on the wall. I'm really not happy with the current situation. I think this fucking stabbing thing's a huge distraction. I don't know why everyone's so up in arms. It could have been 100 people stabbed at a game. I really wouldn't give a shit. I'd just be kind of curious as to why it happened.
A little bit of it.
That'd be a story,
Garcia should not have been deported. Well, actually, he should have had his due process, and whether or not that would have resulted in his deportation is irrelevant because it didn't get it, and so he should get it. And I am very upset by that. Everyone should be upset by that. I'm the Soy Pill. You can find my videos on the Soy Pill at youtube.com. And Big Papa Buckaroo, I hope you were listening to Tyler, but he was talking about like persecuting Jews, and you were kind of cheering that on. So I think you might not have heard the end of that sentence, but if you did, chat me up later. We have have some stuff to talk about. Anyway, thanks for having me, Gibbs.
Oh, yeah, thanks for coming. Also, tomorrow.
I'm so sorry.
Tomorrow.
6 million, really?
All right, real quick. Yeah, tomorrow.
No, I'm just an idiot. Don't listen.
Yeah. And final thoughts here, guys. Tomorrow.
I'm not a Nazi. I'm just not listening.
Yeah, I see. Goddamn, let's get wild over here. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. before Twitch comes and cancels us, we're going to be talking about the economy. 2 of these people will be here. It'll be exciting. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm sure there'll be lots of weeping and gnashing of teeth, and I'm gonna probably think I have brain cancer after that one too. So it'll be fun times. I'm looking forward to it. That's tomorrow. And also after that, we're gonna be doing Modi's comedy dating show. It's a good time. Good time. You can see me dress up.
The Indian Modi?
Yeah, the Indian Prime Minister. He has a dating show. That's awesome.
That's really funny. That's really funny. I never made that comparison. I'm definitely gonna make fun of Modi later. Modi as a Modi 201, and I'm gonna put
that's Indian accent.
Yeah.
Just to drive it home.
Yeah, well, he does like butter chicken and tiki marsala quite a bit. So maybe they are one and the same. I don't know. But yeah, that's tomorrow. It'll be at 7:30, and it'll be fun times. Come check it out. Thank you everybody for coming. Y'all have a good rest of your night.
Please, goodbye, everybody.
We're going to, guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to raid It's Justini.